All right, finishing up information processing view. So we just talked about, we spent a while on the role of memory. That was definitely a bigger part of it. This next part won't be nearly as long, but we're going to talk about control of attention and executive function. So does anybody remember Where's Waldo? This was a very popular book activity when I was a kid, at least in the US where I grew up. So this is an image of Where's Waldo here. I think it's very famous. So this is a good example of something that requires control of attention. So for those unfamiliar, it's a book with many pages of different kinds of scenes, and you have to find Waldo in this super jumbled scene. And these people that you see here are very zoomed in. So the actual book, they're like little ants. They're tiny. All these details of different people with different features, different clothes, and also just objects, things around, right? So there's a lot going on these pages, and you have to find Waldo. And he's actually right here with his little iconic red and white striped shirt and hat. So there's a lot of colors, a lot of different shapes and sizes of objects and people, a lot going on. So this type of task it requires a lot of control of attention, like I said. So children have to regulate their attention. They have to stay focused on the relevant aspects of this task, and they have to ignore the irrelevant distractions. So there's a lot involved here with control of attention. Again, this is very zoomed in. It's a lot smaller. There's a lot more detail. It can give you a very overwhelming task. So school-age children are very attracted to these types of puzzles that test their growing cognitive abilities, especially in the realm of controlled attention. Another example is a classic study where children were shown pairs of houses, like the two pairs that you see here in black and white. So the pairs of houses they were shown were either identical. I believe the bottom one here would be an identical pair. The top pair, though, has subtle differences. So they were shown a pair that's either identical or had some differences that were very subtle. So children were asked to say whether or not the houses were the same, whether they were identical. Younger children were more likely to make mistakes when the houses differed, like this top one here. We see slight differences. Like there's plants in this window on this house, but there's maybe a light fixture in this one. So it's not quite the same. So young kids made mistakes here. When the houses differed. Going further though, researchers are able to track eye movements nowadays. And in this experiment, they tracked their eye movements, younger and older kids, to see their patterns of looking. So younger kids, when their eyes were tracked, they scanned the houses in very chaotic ways. They didn't really have any systematic organization. So they were kind of just looking all over the place. There didn't seem to be much organization in their scanning patterns, according to this technology that was used. Older children, however, as you may have guessed, they scanned the houses in much more systematic ways. So they either went row by row or column by column. So they had much more organized, systematic ways of scanning the two houses and were more likely to be correct. So older kids seem to be better at executing efficient attentional strategies compared to younger kids. They're also better at ignoring distractions, which can play a role in academic abilities, particularly with reading. Sitting down and reading, it requires a lot of focus and attention. So ignoring distractions plays a role there too. What about executive function? So this is the ability to control and monitor our own thinking and behavior. So this contributes to making plans, solving problems, pursuing goals. All of these would be involved with executive function. Children's executive function, as you may have guessed, increases in middle childhood. But as you can probably guess, it's based on everything we've discussed. Everything is pretty much getting better. But in terms of specific findings, executive function skills are essential to academic success. So some developmentalists have been curious about what improves executive function. one experimental study found that children in a 13-week program who exercised more often, they had higher math achievement and overall executive function abilities. So it's an interesting finding, suggests that physical activity might not only offer benefits for physical health, but also for academic success, to give you a bit of a crossover between today's two topics, physical and cognitive development. And that's where we'll end this section. So thank you for tuning in on this section on information processing, and I will see you as we continue along.